Front Line by Joe Resinello. And once more, dear brothers and sisters, let us go into the breach. Disgrazia!
They will not allow Donald Trump to be president. This is the twisted mind of the left. You're putting a Band-Aid over a problem that's not being addressed. It's thrown around too liberally, hate speech. Just because your feelings are hurt doesn't mean it's hate speech. So there are issues here that cross political lines.
It means that your libtard friends are not going to invite you over for Grey Goose and Fagua.
If you think that America is about you, you're just fooled.
I gotta show you something that has me aggravated. Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the Front Line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, as always, joined by Joe Resinello. And once more, dear brothers and sisters, live across social media, Thursday nights, 9 o'clock Eastern. Let us go into the breach. So tonight we have a special program. We're going to be talking about a couple other things in the second segment. But tonight we invited a friend of ours, okay? Because a friend, we were on the radio together a while ago. Back east, and since then I found out that this guy's running for president of the United States. And I was like, what is this all about, right? And Peter Sonsky, who's joining us, okay, he's running, I'm not joking, he's running for president of the United States on a third-party ticket, the American Solidarity Party. And the reason why I wanted to have him on to mix it up with Joe and I and our audience here at the at the Front Line with Joe and Joe and Real Truth News on Rumble is because, Joe and I are always talking about, you got one party, the Democrats, who are completely insane. And I'm not being hyperbolic. They're insane. They're off the rails. I can't even believe they believe the things that they say they believe in. However, that's the state of affairs. And we have our party. I say our party, the party I normally vote for and have in my life. I call them the feckless party. All right. That's the Republican Party. They come and court our vote when it comes to abortion, when it comes to some cultural issues. They skirt the line a little bit, and then when they get in, they don't do anything. And we have a laundry list as long as my arm, where all the times Republicans said they were going to do something to actually fight against the left and haven't done it. Well, Peter and his party, they have a real platform, not an RFK platform. Okay, not a Bernie Sanders platform. This is the American Solidarity Party, and that's what we're going to talk about. The chat room's open, so anybody who wants to make a comment or ask a question, please feel free to do so. Peter Sonsky, our friend and our brother, welcome to the Front Line with Joe and Joe.
Brothers, long time no see, long time no talk. God bless you. Thanks very much for the opportunity. It's a thrill.
No, absolutely. We're genuinely interested in what you have to say. Joe Resinello, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Tell us the platform. I actually saw an endorsement today from Father Gill, so I know your good stuff, Peter. I knew that even before that, to be honest with you. I saw that on social media, so I know that you're on point. Obviously, you're Catholic. We're all Catholic here, and both parties have betrayed the Catholic Church, in my view. I mean, you could look at the radical ideas that are going on in the Democratic Party with regard to third trimester abortions, transing kids. Then you can go to the Republicans. Clearly, they don't represent the people when it comes to even abortion now. I think it's going to be a 15-week ban, across the board. Many of them are indifferent on same-sex marriage. To be truthful with you, I think they have to come up with a plan for healthcare. Healthcare isn't working in America. It isn't even working for people who have insurance. And I don't want the government to run healthcare, but something's got to give. Talk about your party, what you have in mind. Just from reading what Father Gill said, he was talking about the social doctrine of the Catholic Church, which I think a lot of people gloss over. But as Catholics, we have to be very mindful of it, because ultimately the vote that we want is God's vote at the end of our lives. So tell us about that, your platform, and tell us what you stand for.
Happy to. So the American Solidarity Party, fellas, it's the manifestation of Christian democracy in the United States. Christian democracy, very popular in Europe, also in many places in Latin America. And it was born out of the Catholic social encyclicals that have informed us over the past, say, 140 more or less years. 1891, Leo the 13th writes Rerum Novarum. It's in the Industrial Revolution. We're going from a subsistence existence here where people are farming and have a trade for themselves that are providing for themselves to industrialization, factories, and people actually becoming laborers. And the Pope's concern for the extremes of both unbridled capitalism as well as the prospects of communism, socialism on the other side of the spectrum, and trying to find a way to guide this development so that it goes in the proper way of respect for human dignity. And it's been developed by all the Holy Fathers right up into the present time, right up into Francis. Okay, the biggest one that we all know and probably the one that we most love is John Paul II, Centesimus Annus, 1991, 100 years after Rerum Novarum, Leo the 13th. So it's a beautiful document. And like you say, Joe, it's something that a lot of us as Catholics don't often hear about. But that is the basis. That is the foundation of the platform of the American Solidarity Party. So human dignity is at its core. So we respect life from birth to natural death. We oppose abortion. We oppose euthanasia. We oppose the death penalty. We are supportive of anything that has respect for the dignity of life. And that is the premise. That's the foundation of the entire party. We can go more into specifics, but excuse me. That's what it's all about.
No, let's talk. Let's dive a little deeper because I can already hear people out there now. Forget about, let's say, for argument's sake, non-Christian secularists. Okay, particularly on the left, they'll just you're Christian nationalists. That's what they'll call us. That's their euphemism for you're a racist. That's how they throw that around. We both know that. But to those who might say, well, I'm not Catholic, or I'm not Christian. Okay, now I'll throw you my ideas, Peter, and you tell me what you think. Okay, we lost Joe a minute. We'll just keep it going until he comes back, Pete. So some might say, but I don't know what the Catholic, social doctrine of the Catholic Church is, and I don't want it imposed on me. My retort would be, first of all, you should find out what these things are, because if you remember, the word Catholic means universal. The teachings of the Church, if you knew what they were, Mr. Blue Collar, non-Christian, non-Catholic, you'd understand that the teachings of the Church are there to benefit you too, not just Catholics. How about all the conservative and Orthodox Jews that are pro-life the way we're pro-life? Okay. And Protestants, obviously, who are pro-life, okay, against abortion, against gay marriage, against transgender, and against all that. Our ideas are good for you if you call yourself a conservative in America and traditionally vote for the Ted Cruzes of the world and the Josh Hawleys of the world, and I like those guys, okay? Our ideas will actually benefit you a lot more than the Republican ideas because we're actually going to stand by those principles. Catholic doctrine is good for society, whether you're Catholic or not. You know where I'm going, Peter. I love your comments.
Point taken, man. I mean, these encyclicals were written not just for Catholics, Joe. They were written for the broader society, for the common good, okay? They respect people in all places, of all faiths, of all stratuses of society. So it is, to your point, not something that is exclusive by any means. It is really meant to look at the whole of society, the whole of mankind, and say, this is a direction that's beneficial for it all. So what we are doing is looking at the welfare of all, the needs of all, the good of all, and putting it together into a platform that is based on the common law, the natural law, and is beneficial for people of all walks of life, of all nationalities, of all faiths. Um, that's what universal, that's what Catholic means.
Mm-hmm.
So to your point, there are people that object, but you know what? Not the American Solidarity Party is not the American Catholic Party. It's not the American um, Christian Party. It's the American Solidarity Party, but it builds on these teachings because we are a plurality in the United States, and we have a number of people who are not Catholic, who are not Christian, who still believe that these are good values for the whole of society.
Right. Right. Let's get even a little bit more specific, because again, I'm trying to appeal more to the conservatives out there, okay, who have been repeatedly let down by the Republican Party. You see, the Republican Party now, including Donald Trump, are saying, we shouldn't talk about abortion so much. The only reason why you got elected, one of the main reasons you got elected, Mr. Trump, is because, like Joe and I, we voted for you because we wanted judges that were going to overturn Roe versus Wade. But what did you think, that we were going to stop there? So it's him, Ann Coulter, people like her. Don't talk about abortion anymore. You got what you wanted. Roe versus Wade was overturned. No, I want abortion to be eradicated. Now, my larger point is this. I'm talking to conservatives who are consistently let down. Peter, talk about the American Solidarity Party's position on war and when to go to war.
Just war principles, Joe. Just war principles. You know what? We recognize that there is always going to be a recourse to war when justice is violated. But we have to be respectful of the fact that there are limits to how we go about these things, and the broader scenario. I'm trying to put this into a phrasing that I think is going to be more widely understood or accepted by most. But we are not put here on earth to be warring with each other. We realize that there are going to be aggressors, that there's going to be attacks, that there's going to be occasions when we need to defend ourselves, and we need to respond in ways that prevent injustice. But there are also principles that we need to uphold, and that is that we have a desire for solidarity, a desire for the welfare of one another, that we don't desire to be at odds with others. We desire to have at least terms with others in which we can have a mutual respect. So let's, for example, let's talk about Middle East as a classic example right now. So
Perfect.
Israel is attacked. Hamas comes out of Gaza and attacks Israel, and they're such atrocities. I mean, the murders, the rapes, the abuse, and the manner in which it's done, the manner in which it's glorified. It's sad. So, does Israel have a right to defend itself? By all means, absolutely. It needs to protect its citizenship. It needs to protect its sovereignty. However, the manner in which it has ultimately gone about this has been, perhaps in many people's view, certainly mine, to an extent that it is beyond what is essential to defend itself. And gosh, we've got refugees galore in that poor strip of Gaza. They have no place to go. Are there other ways? I mean, I don't suggest that it was wrong for them to retaliate. I just openly question, why are we doing it in the manner in which we're doing it? Boys, it's not getting the job done. You wanted to release these hostages, and you wanted to be able to eradicate the criminals that perpetuated this terrible atrocity. And what you're doing is you're decimating a land. I'm not saying that I oppose Israel. I'm not saying that I think that their right to retaliate has been forfeited, but I am saying, is this accomplishing what you set out to do? And is there a better way to go about it at this stage?
I think that, and I think that's what the teaching, the just war teaching of the church. I think that's really what it pertains to. We were attacked on 9/11. I don't think anybody would have said we should not have responded, but there needs to be level heads in the room. I don't care. I was beside myself when the towers went down, like many Americans, most Americans. Okay, all right. I wanted retaliation, but it's got to be something that's just. That's what we're talking about. It's got to be something that's just, and the cooler heads in that regard have to prevail. Yes, Hamas attacked Israel. Yes, Hamas needs to be retaliated against, but you have to then apply certain principles to that conflict. You have to operate. I think we would all agree. I hope others would agree. Cooperate with the just war principles, teachings of the Catholic Church. I think it says, and it's out there. You can go find it, whoever you are, if you want to go see what they're all about. They're very sensible means by which you unfortunately have to prosecute a war at times. Okay, but it's the sensible way of having to do it. Okay, if that's the right word. Let's move off war. Let me hand it to Joe. We got Joe back, Peter.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My internet's been spotty all day. I'm disenchanted with the system. I'll be honest with you. I don't have any affiliation. I look at it purely from a Catholic lens, and it's holding your nose, and that's sad. I don't think the system works anymore, Peter, particularly because of super PACs and money. I think we have to get money out of politics. Neither party represents Americans. I think you're deluding yourself if you think one of the or the other is going to do anything for the average person. It's purely driven by power levers, which is driven by money. Our vote means nothing, zero, whether you live in North Dakota or you live in Illinois. They take your vote and then they listen to the people who gave money. What's your thoughts on lobbies, super PACs? I think they got to go.
I'm in complete agreement with your assessment, Joe. Look, I grew up in a blue household. I was a Democrat to start my life. It was an entirely different party back then. It was the party of the little guy, the party of labor, but the party of the little guy. Well, you know what? About the time I became of age to vote, they forgot about the little guy in the womb. And so I say the Democratic Party left me. I didn't leave the Democratic Party. I was a Reagan Democrat, and then I was a Reagan Republican. And over time, I just realized, to what Joe said earlier, the Republicans don't deliver. They want everything from you, but they don't deliver on the other end. And so I became disenchanted with them, and I left, and I'm politically homeless for like 2 decades. And I'm saying, okay, I'll vote for this person whom I can believe in. I'll vote for that person whom I can believe in, but I can't vote in either of these ideologies. And you know what's happened over time too, to your point? It used to be that the two parties would bend at least toward the middle in a general election, a presidential election, to try to get to appeal to that group that was independent minded or centrist. And they don't even care anymore. They've gone to their extremes. And whether it's big business or big academia or big tech that the Democrats are in bed with these days, that's where their interests lie. Their interests are in the donor class and in the people that are running the party. They are not interested in you and you as voters. And so, to your point, money has influenced everything, and it has corrupted this system that we have. Now, a third party like mine wants to become viable. How the hell does that happen? Because both of those parties are controlling every state house in the nation. And in order for me to get on the ballot, I have to petition to do so. Okay, fine. But what if I need like 40,000 signatures, like in Michigan, in order to get on the ballot? You know what it takes to gather 40,000 signatures? And oh, by the way, you got 3 months to do it, Peter, so that you can get it to them by the 30th of August, and they can certify it in 2 months to make sure that you're worthy to be on the ballot. It's impossible to do with volunteers. Professionals will do it, but they don't do it cheaply. So the two parties agree on one thing, that they don't want competition.
Well, let me stay there for a second. What do you think about public financing of campaigns and doing away with all private money? So this way, I can't contribute, nor can the super PACs, nor can the corporations. The government that wastes trillions of dollars takes a slice of the federal budget and allocates it for campaigns for all national offices, House, Senate, President, all that fun stuff. And that's it. And once you run out of money, as my mother would go like this, my old Italian mother, she would go, "Hey, that's it. You got to know more. That's it." And everybody's on the same playing field. And also, yes, there has to be some money so that Peter Sonsky and the American Solidarity Party can have enough money to hire the people they need to get out there in that 2 months and go get those 40,000 signatures. What are your thoughts, Peter?
Joe, I saw a headline today that there's some $1 billion in weapons that were earmarked for Ukraine that are unaccounted for. I just wonder about the government's ability to manage anything these days, anything financial.
No,
but to your point, yes, I would very much like to see private money be minimally restricted so that it's not having the influence that it has. Because clearly, super PACs, as Joe said, are what's causing politics to go in the bad directions that it's going in today. Because money is what drives, and money is power. And these guys, look, that's all that they're interested in. I want to either maintain the power that I have, like the Republicans are scratching tooth and nail to hold on to the House, or we want to regain it. The Democrats are strategizing how the hell are we going to take the House back in the November election, and that's what it's all about: getting power or retaining power, and then doing what you can to help your people when you've got it, and talking nice to the voters to make them feel like you care.
Well, I'm going to hand it over to Joe, but what they do is they get the big money. They get the money from the big money people. They use that money to get the message out to guys like us and to woo us into voting for them. Mm-hmm. All right, that's what they use the money for, to convince us we should vote for them. And they say, I'm on your side, like this. All right, and then the second they get in, you start talking about, like Joe Rossinello always talks about, when you start talking about health insurance, reducing costs, healthcare costs, all that stuff. You know what their attitude is? Well, the pharmaceutical company gave me $10 million for my campaign, so I can't quite do that. Let me throw it over to Joe, Pete, in our limited time.
Let's talk about voting reform, because I can't for the life of me figure out why we have mail-in ballots when people could show up. I mean, I can remember years ago, I think it was James Baker and Jimmy Carter, they did a study and they said that it's rife for fraud. It was a bipartisan study. Also, Barack Obama opined on it. People could look that up. It's not a good way to vote. I mean, this is the United States of America. Let's talk about some controls. You got to show up. You got to show ID. There should be paper ballots. No more electric issues the night of the election. This screw up, that screw up. Paper ballots. Put a cop inside the voting facility. Put cameras when people count, so that there it is. And that to me says they don't want to fix the system. They don't, because that's a simple fix. You do that, you're verifying the person lives there, you're verifying they're a citizen, and you vote. People don't have confidence. And it's not just MAGA people. It's people, frankly, who have eyes. There is no reason why ballot harvesting and mail-in ballots should exist at this point in time. COVID's done. People go all over. They shop. They go to football games. 80,000 people crammed into a stadium. You can show up and vote. Everyone can vote, whether you're 90 years old or whether you're 18. What are your thoughts on that? And that is, to me, and that's Republican or Democrat, you don't want to fix that. You don't want to fix the system. To me, it's money, and it's let's get a fair vote. And I'll be honest with you, Peter, and I say this with a sad heart. I don't believe in the country anymore. It doesn't work. I wish, and believe me, I mean, I benefit from it. It's just declining. And we could talk a million, and that's sad. It's what are your thoughts on that? Voting, and then your thoughts, because I know I'm not alone in feeling that way. And to be truthful with you, I think we got to come up with some solutions, because it's just going to keep going down. Joe,
everything you said is common sense, but common sense doesn't exist anymore. It's it's common, it's personal convenience. Okay. It's, oh, it's a lot easier for me to fill out a paper ballot and put it in a drop box somewhere, drop in the mail, do whatever I need to do, and then I don't have to worry about making a special sacrifice to go and show up and stand in line and cast my vote like my parents and my grandparents and your parents and grandparents did. And it was a privilege to do so. Nowadays, it is all about what's convenient for me. And you're right. The Pauls took advantage of the fact that we had a pandemic as a way to introduce this new method of polling that is certainly more beneficial for the parties than it is for a just election. And to your point, all of this has the greatest potential for fraud. Now, I'm not here to say that there was fraud here, there, or the other where. I'm here to say simply that the reality is, if there's ever going to be fraud, this is the way that it is done. And I agree with you. I think that we should do away with all of these newfangled methods of voting and go back to the way that we used to do it. I am an American citizen. I have an ID. I can prove who I am. I have not only a right, but I think an obligation to vote. And I'm willing to give up my time to stand in line, to do my duty, to cast a ballot. And I want it to be counted equal to everyone else's.
And that's where the money comes in, and that's what it like. I believe that our country is an oligarchy. I sincerely believe that. I read this in Forbes magazine. They said how Russia, maybe 365 people run the country. In America, it's 365,000. There is a ruling class. And that is why the Republicans don't do anything, because they all eat from the same trough. And I'll tell you what, this is my opinion. I'll be your advisor. This is my thoughts. There is a group of people, regular people, they have to become disenchanted, and I think they're beginning to. Regular people, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, have to believe, because it's true, these people don't represent you. They simply don't. If you think that they're going to help you, a guy who drives an Amazon truck, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, you're not paying attention. You're simply not paying attention. And that's where I think people like yourself are seeing that. Cornel West, RFK. You had Harold Schultz, who ran as it was going to run as an independent. He was a basic Democrat. I mean, basically, if you looked at his platform, he was just disenchanted, or he didn't have a space with the Democratic Party because they're crazy. They want to chop off 15-year-old girls' breasts and think it's okay. I mean, like, these are things that you're like, what are these people talking about? But then the Republicans don't do anything because they eat from the same trough. They know where their bread is buttered, and frankly, they're not going to serve you. They're simply not. The system doesn't work, and that's why I applaud you for what you're doing. And in all honesty, hopefully some eyes are open. That's why we have the show. People have to open their eyes and look at reality. And instead of listening to all these pundits on the various stations that just want to affirm people in their beliefs, and frankly, they're eating from the same trough too. Their kids don't go to the school my kids go to, and frankly, they don't want to hang out with me, no matter what station it is. I mean, we gotta get to basics, and to be honest with you, you said it. It's common sense. Common sense. We are the people. I love the name of your party, Solidarity, standing shoulder to shoulder, because ultimately our survival is contingent upon each other, even if we disagree with certain things, because the people who represent us don't.
And you know what, Joe? I love your mantra. And your mantra is into the breach, right? Your mantra is ducking out and put out into the deep. We can't sit idly anymore. We've got to act with courage. We've got to act with conviction. We've got to act with our eyes wide open and stop being lulled by the baloney, I'll be polite, of the politicians. Because you're right. They have one interest, and it is me.
Peter Sonsky's joining us here at the front line with Joe, and Joe, we're way, as Peter said, into the breach. So Peter's running for president under the American Solidarity Party. Peter, in the last couple minutes, let me ask you this. Let's say, hypothetically, I'm an atheist, okay? And or not me, let's say you're talking to an atheist and you're trying to convince them that the American Solidarity Party, which again is an American party, it's not a purely Catholic party, but trying to convince them that, look, although we might not agree on all moral issues, okay, we must come together and agree that there has to be moral boundaries. There are things you cannot do, no matter how much you raise your fist in the air and say that you have a right to do it, no matter how many justices in robes make up this right. There has to be moral boundaries. I have an atheist friend of mine. He's a lapsed Catholic. He's libertarian. Okay. And I try to tell him this all the time. We have this conversation. If you want me to vote libertarian, then libertarians are going to have to acknowledge that it's not a free for all. You don't just get to do what you want to do. There are moral boundaries. You can't kill kids in the womb. Let's start there. Forget about everything else. How about we just agree on that? Talk about the need, not just for you running for president with the American Solidarity Party, but for all of us as men who believe in the natural law, believe in the moral law, to say, look, if you don't follow these things, okay, to at least a certain minimal degree, our society's not going to survive. It's not. You're going to have a $10 million in the bank. Eventually, the society is going to crumble, and you're going to be broke, whether you got $10 in the bank or $10 million in the bank, because your money's going to be worth garbage. All right. And everything else in society is going to crumble along with it. I think you know where I'm going, Peter. I'm going to throw it over to you for some comments.
Joe, we've got to tend toward anarchy, or we got to tend toward order. Okay, there has got to be, as you say, some boundaries. There's got to be some common acceptance of standards that we're all going to live by. We're all going to show a degree of respect for one another, for one another's property, for one another's person, and we're all going to live in a degree of harmony. If we get to this point where we're interested only in ourselves and have little concern, and we're seeing it more and more just in the way society is today, we're going to destroy ourselves as an existence. So yes, I think that anybody, of whether they have any religious conviction or not, if they have any ability to reason, they should see that there has to be a common acceptance of standards, laws, ways of life that allow us to live together in harmony, and that there's got to be forms of government, forms of organization in society that help us to define what those boundaries are, and to defend people from those individuals that would not abide by those, so that we have law and order. There's a must for it. You don't have to have religious convictions in order to be able to understand these needs. It's, I hate to say it, it's common sense.
Well, I tried to explain it to a friend of mine one time a while back. I tried to explain to him about the natural law. He goes, I don't believe in the natural law. I said, what? I at that point, I kind of don't even know what to say. I said, how do you know that if there was no written law and you saw me pick up a gun and shoot some guy on the street, do you believe in the natural law now? Because obviously you're going to say I did something wrong. I shot somebody. So you do believe in the natural law. But people, then the way it's been sold is that the natural law is necessarily can only be applied from religious people. Okay.
That's not the way we're wired, Joe. You know, your example. If you go out and perform a crime, you rob somebody, you rape somebody, you shoot somebody, you assault somebody, people know innately that that is wrong. People know just by the very nature of their being that that is not who we are. And if you can't admit that because you feel as though that is only defined in a religious way, then you have no understanding of your existence.
Well, and listen, we could go on and on. That's where education comes in. Peter, where can people find out more about the American Solidarity Party? You personally, anything you want to share with our audience?
Joe, you're very kind. Solidarity-party.org. My own website, petersonsky.com. I'm on all of the social media channels. Look me up by my name. Happy to exchange thoughts with people. The American Solidarity Party has a big uphill climb, fellas. I acknowledge that. The chances of my moving to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue are damn slim. But you know what? If I can bring an alternative, if I can bring another policy perspective to voters and give them an opportunity to see that what the Dems and what the Republicans are offering us are not always in our best interest, then maybe we got some people thinking.
Well, and let's hope we do that. Joe and I say on the show all the time, there's a lot of people out there, Peter, that we don't hear from, but we know are out there, like 22 million members of Democrats for Life, okay, who are tired of their party's position on abortion. Guys like Joe and me, who, and again, I won't speak for you, Peter, who vote Republican and constantly get stabbed in our back. There's a lot of us out there. I agree with you. The chances in this go around of you being a resident at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue might be slim, but we're going to keep pushing. Peter Sonsky, you are welcome back here anytime. You're our friend. You're our brother. Okay, let's stay in touch, and we'll do this every so often. This way, you can keep us posted as to what's going on.
Brothers, I love you. Thanks so much. Keep me in prayer, would you?
Absolutely. God bless you, Peter.
Be well,
Take care.
bro.
Be well. You see, Joe, now that's the thing, and we're gonna keep it moving. We're gonna unfortunately have to talk about this. What's going on in Canada, Joe, is beyond me. You're my guy on Canada, but we have to realize, Joe, it's like you say all the time. All right, you say you don't believe in gravity? Go jump out the window, see what happens. Okay, it's like there was the results of what we've been doing in America for the last 50, 60 years, and in the West in general. Okay, I think the receipts are in. Okay, and it doesn't look too good. It
Well, I'll
doesn't
tell
look
you
too
what,
good.
I do think there is a significant percentage of the population that are disenchanted. Now, I'm not saying Peter's going to win. I don't think he would say he was going to win, but I like the fact that people are talking like him. I think if we did three things, we fixed voting, whereby you put some controls. That's it. You show up, you have to show ID, signature verification, paper ballots, you have a cop, you have cameras. That's a control. That's not being undemocratic. In fact, that is democracy. That's democracy, where people have confidence in the voting process. That is absolutely fair and square. And let the better person win. Take
That's
money.
all.
Take money out of the system, where the mailman's vote is as good as a vote as JP Morgan's or the Teachers Association.
Joe,
And
let me tell you something. The people that constantly tell you and constantly tell me that they love democracy. No, you don't. You don't trust democracy because they want to vote in their interest, Joe, but they don't want you to vote in yours.
well, that's right. And I'm just saying it has to be a level playing field. I'm not saying anything other than that. And lastly, it should be subsidiarity. It's not top down, it's bottom up. I don't know what's going on in South Dakota, but they do. So that doesn't mean that there isn't overarching federal laws, but what it does mean is if the school system in South Dakota wants to do things their way because it works, because they're on the ground, they should be able to do it.
That's right. That's right.
That's it. I'm not asking for them. Now, clearly, if they do something crazy, like off the hook, then the government has to step in. However, subsidiarity works because you know what's best for your community because you live there.
Right.
Does that sound crazy?
No.
I don't think it does.
Well, it sounds crazy to an oligarch who will basically,
Bingo.
chastise you and say you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know how the real world works. No, let me tell you something, my friend. What pisses you off is that we do know how the real world works. And in the real world, right now in America, okay, guys like us, all the working class and middle class people are taking it, you know what? And let's segue from that. Joe, just give our audience, a lot of whom already know, you'll be educating me. Who is this woman? What's her name? Christy Ryland?
Freeland. Freeland is basically the number two. It's Trudeau's like second in command. And basically a reporter is trying to have an interview with her. And watch what happens to him. I want you to pay particular attention to what they're deeming as an assault. The police say that he, the reporter, assaulted them by a rough brush of the shoulder. Pay attention to that. You be the judge of it. I'm not going to say another word. Watch the clip.
Freeland, how come the IRGC is not a terrorist group? Why is your government supporting Islamo-nationalism? What? Excuse me. What are you doing?
You're under arrest for assault. Why are you pushing me? You're under arrest for assault.
Who are you?
You're under arrest for assault.
Police, you're under arrest for assault. How am I under arrest? You bumped into me. You pushed into me. I was just scrubbing. I got my credentials here and you just bumped into me. So excuse
Police, you're under arrest.
What is your name and your badge? What is your name and your badge?
You've been told you're under arrest.
Why am I under arrest? He blocked my way. What? I was just scrumming Christian Freeland.
I'm a police officer. You're under arrest.
What is your name and your badge?
For assaulting a police officer.
How is that possible?
Okay, because
you assaulted me 3 years ago when blackface was back.
that was very aggressive. What was happening?
You mean I was asking questions aggressively?
No, your actions were. You were almost pushing everybody over. That's how it appears.
Lincoln, you got this on video, right? He's saying I'm pushing people over.
Yeah,
that's an absolute falsehood.
There were feet were shuffling.
So now it appeared that way. That's what you're saying, officer. It appeared I was pushing people. I didn't touch a single person.
That was a little bit aggressive for what was happening. Get that. You're under arrest. Please take the microphone out of my face.
Well, I'd like an ongoing.
Joe, I'm sorry. Here's
That's
where I'm
disturbing.
Here's where I'm going to try to put my objective hat on, okay, which I think I try to keep on most of the time, okay, even though it comes off once in a while, is that we watched for the last several years people burning down cities, and the cops didn't do anything. We have a kid who shot a cop in Dallas and put it on social media, and nobody did anything. You got violence coming from people that Justin Trudeau and what's her name, Freeland, and people like that support. And this old reporter, because he looks a little old.
That's right.
Okay, bumps into that linebacker with the bald head. Okay, who obviously is a provocateur. Keeps saying, "I'm a police officer and you're under arrest." No, you're a police officer and a provocateur, and he's under arrest because you stood in his way. You saw him coming, and you could have moved. He didn't hit you deliberately. My point is, all the crap we put up with people committing blatant acts of violence, both against property and people. And this is the guy that's getting arrested? Are you kidding me?
Well, clearly, the government has it out for Rebel News. They're persona non grata. That's point one. People should know that. But he's an old man. He didn't assault that cop.
No.
And frankly, that cop should get reprimanded. If I was his boss and I watched that film, he should get sued. If I was that reporter, I would sue him. I would sue the city. But then again, the rule of law is thrown out the window. This is tyrannical, Joe. And this is the thing that bothers me, in all honesty. People refuse to take off their political hat and be objective with something like that. You don't have to like Rebel News. You don't have to like Pierre Poilievre, which is the conservative leader in Canada, to be appalled by that. And not enough people are. In America or in Canada. They'll be like, oh, good, he has it coming. No. That's when society unravels. You see, I'll be honest with you. If the tables were turned and that was done against like MSNBC, it's dangerous.
Right.
I don't support it.
Right.
I don't support it because democracy, I'm going to use the word rightly, is at stake.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that and call yourself a democracy.
No.
That is what a tyrannical government does. Shut down the opposition. No questions. No free speech. It's simply shutting down a disagreement. He has every right to ask questions, and he clearly didn't assault that person. That is nothing short of a joke, and people should be appalled, and not enough people are, Joe. You know, I'll tell you, you and I were about the same age. We read all the stories about what happened in Rwanda, what happened in Germany, what happened in Cambodia. And I used to say to myself, how did people allow this? How did people? Adolf Hitler was voted in. People voted for him.
Right.
And then they rallied behind him. We saw the films. You look at what happened in Cambodia. You see what happened in Rwanda. That's just 3 in the last 100 years, and there've been many more.
Can I paint a picture for you real quick?
Sure, please.
I'm gonna put it this way. Okay, at the front line with Joe and Joe, Real Truth News on Rumble, wherever you're seeing this, please share this video. Joe and I are really getting the word out. We're growing, thank God. We have great conversations. But the thing is, Joe, is like when it comes to like let's put it like this. The state the world is in now, not just America, not just Canada. Okay. I do not like, okay, as a human being. I love him as a human being and I pray for him, but I don't like him as Barack Obama. Now, I'm just going to give you this as an example. Okay. If he was assassinated, I would rightfully be appalled. Okay. Because you don't do that. You don't. All right. You don't shoot a president. You don't assault people simply you're supposed to fight them within the political arena in America. All right. In the political sphere, but you don't shoot them. And I know that there might be a lot of people on the right that if that something tragic like that was to happen, they might be happy that it happened. Let me tell you something, Joe. I'm sorry. I know that both sides do it. The left right now and these insane people, if Donald Trump, when he was in president, got shot, they'd be dancing in the street. If you and me, that proverbial guillotine you and I always talk about, when they bring it back, they're going to put it in the middle of Times Square and they're going to stick our heads in it. Half the country would say, good, they deserve it. Do you know what I'm saying, Joe? Yeah, I think he knows what I'm saying. But anyway, I think I lost the feed with Joe. So we're going to end it there. Thank you for joining us here at the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossinello, Real Truth News on Rumble. Please share. Twitter, X, at with Joe and Joe, Facebook, YouTube until YouTube takes us down, but we don't care because we're growing on Rumble and X. And remember, until the next time, that our conversation is your conversation. Hey, I got him back. Joe, you got a final word?
No, Joe, I'll be truthful with you. It comes down to this. We've become tribal. We live in a nation of tribes. There is no more we the people. It's tribal. And frankly, our survival depends upon each other. Because I got news for you. If America was to collapse, it would be a tsunami across the world. I believe, don't quote me on the number, but last I heard, America is like 33% of the global economy. 1 out of $3 that are spent on the earth are a result of the American economy. California is the 4th largest economy in the world. The state of.
Mm-hmm.
So if America was to collapse, the result of that would be pandemonium across the globe, as well as here.
Yeah.
And people are tribal. They can't get out of their own friggin' zone. Ultimately, and that's why I love the Peter Sonsky situation, people have to start thinking. They have to think that your survival is dependent on my survival. You like your middle class life? Well, guess what? You better start talking to your neighbor. That means we're not going to agree on everything, but we got to start working together. How does that happen? We have to basically find some common ground. How about this? How about we start witnessing to our neighbor? If you're Catholic, you say you're Catholic, you say you're Christian. How about showing them that? Because most people, sadly, aren't doing that. And frankly, until we have a basic belief and we find our North Star, the tribal stuff is going to continue. And frankly, even the people in the Christian circles are in tribes, which is sad.
No, I agree.
Completely sad. They don't talk to each other. They call each other names. They throw stones. ultimately, you know something? I mean, I've thought about this. Everyone wants to go to heaven. Everybody wants to go to heaven. Everyone thinks they're going to heaven. In heaven, there's one idea. There's one heart, and it's God's. And I got news for you. If you're not on his page, you're not getting in. How's that sound? You're not getting in. And throwing bottles at your neighbor isn't going to help.
Yeah, they're going to get you there.
That's not getting you in.
Right.
So how about we all, again, we could agree to disagree on things. We start working towards a common solution that's going to save each other's ass. Because ultimately, I got news for you. Your neighbor goes down, you go down, America goes down, you're finished.
Yep.
We're all finished. We're finished. Your grandkids are going to be speaking Chinese. Finished.
Jojo Rossinello, we got to leave it there. Thanks, everybody. Remember, till the next time, that our conversation is your conversation, and that conversation is going on everywhere.